And the objective of this project is to continue strengthening that research, extension, collaboration throughout the hemp research community, but also expanding our ties to outside of academia. We want to create good quality content and that will be accessible to anyone that wants to consume or view it.
That's Lucia Vignale, PhD student in Larry Smart's Hemp Lab at Cornell University, where she is also the organizer of this year's Hemp Webinar series that starts next week. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. Hello there, my name is Eric Herlock. I'm excited to be back. It's 2025. We've got a whole new season of shows lined up for you. Today we'll hear my conversation with Lucia Vignale, PhD student at Cornell's Hemp Lab, and she's also the organizer of the webinar series that starts next week. It goes every other Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, starting January 29th all the way to May 7th. This year's webinar focuses on hemp grain. All that and more. First, a quick word from our sponsors. Today's show is made possible with generous support from IND Hemp in Fort Benton, Montana, where they believe in the goodness of hemp. IND Hemp is a family-owned, mission-driven industrial hemp company focused on feed, fiber, and fuel, bringing new opportunities to farmers in Montana and across the U.S. Check them out at indhemp.com. This episode is made possible with support from Americhon Cast Hemp, Pennsylvania's premier hempcrete building company and distributor of the E-Reezy spray applied system. Learn more at americhon.com. And today's show is also made possible with support from Forever Green, distributors of the KP4 hemp cutter. Learn more at hempcutter.com. And a quick shout out to our friends over there at King's Agri-Seeds, where Sarah Mitchell is ready to take your hemp seed order. Check them out at kingsagriseeds.com. Okay, welcome back. So I have been sort of away from my desk for the past few weeks. I guess here we are. It's it's almost the end of January already. We've moved into a new political season. We have a new president in the White House. There's fires in California. There's a snowstorm on the Gulf Coast. It's -4 degrees here in Pennsylvania. It's just, it's a crazy world, and I'm here for it. So over the holidays, I was attempting to make some kind of year in review show where I was going to look back at all of the people and the places that shaped my year. And oh boy, what a year it was for me in 2024. But as I started working on that, I realized you don't need that. We want to be looking forward. All right. We want to be looking into the future. We want to be in the present. So, to quote Bob Dylan, don't look back. Okay, having said all that, we're just going to move ahead. So a quick nugget of hemp news that you all should know about. The International Hemp Building Association has announced that they will be holding their 2025 Hemp Building Symposium in Minnesota at the Lower Sioux Indian Community. So I think this is fantastic news. We were out there in September, hanging out with Danny Desjardins and the crew there at the Lower Sioux. They were doing fantastic things with hempcrete there in Minnesota. So we'll have more information about that symposium as it becomes available. But that's really good news, and I am very excited to share it with you. What else? Well, I know there's some things happening in California right now. I'm working on setting up an interview with somebody out there to learn more about that. I've got a few other cool show ideas coming your way for this year. I'm looking forward to 2025. It's going to be a good year. Okay, so that's it. That's my spiel for today. Now we're just going to get into my conversation with Lucia. We had a nice conversation earlier this week, and I'm happy to share it here with you now. Lucia Vignale, welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp podcast. How are you doing?
Great. I'm doing great.
So you are a PhD candidate at Cornell could you give us an introduction? Tell me who you are.
Of course. I'm Lu Vignale, Lucia, really, but Lu is a bit shorter. I'm a third-year PhD candidate in plant breeding and genetics at Cornell University, working in Larry Smart's lab. I'm interested in searching for, mapping, characterizing new sources of resistance against hemp and hop, powdery mildew. I am here in Geneva, New York, at the Agritech campus.
Okay. How did you get started in, plant genetics and researching hemp?
That is a good question. Goes back in time. So I did my bachelor's in biochemistry at our public university in Uruguay. So I'm from South America. Uruguay is a tiny country between Argentina and Brazil. So if you're noticing the accent, my first language is Spanish, and I'm trying to learn and perfection English day by day. So I studied there. I did my master's in biology, in cell and molecular biology, really. Then I worked for 2 years as a research assistant in the same molecular laboratory. And then that PI was starting to work with cannabis, not just hemp, cannabis in general. And that's how I started with hemp. Then I applied for a Fullbright scholarship and I got in. I also applied to Cornell and got in, and I've been working in Larry Smart since then. So in August of 2022, my husband and I moved to Geneva, to Ithaca, where we lived for 2 years. And last year we moved to Geneva.
Okay. What is it about the cannabis plant that sort of drew you in as a geneticist?
Well, I really like that there's so much that we don't know about it. So I want to answer questions, I want to solve problems, and I felt that for many other crops, corn or cotton or soybean, there's a lot of research. We know a lot about them, but hemp has been largely unexplored due to legal issues, different from that the plant is not a good crop or anything like that. So I feel like there's so many things that we can do and learn from it, and we are seeing that in person now with all the new products and applications that we can get from it.
Right. So it's just like, because it's still mysterious, there's a lot of science available for scientists. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Tell me, if you can, a bit about, the hemp or cannabis landscape back home in Uruguay.
Well, it was legalized for recreational use in December of 2013, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And since then, people have been trying to figure out how it works. The government has a couple of cultivars that they allow pharmacies to sell. You have to be registered. It's not that anyone can. And you can also grow a couple plants at home, female plants. I don't think that males count, but female plants, and you can harvest a certain amount and then keep it for self-consumption.
Is there much sort of movement in like the industrial applications of cannabis?
Yeah, there's less. There's less of it, but there's people that are starting to do some trials, and I know that there's some new companies, but it's still growing and a very small market.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Cornell. You've been there 3 years, you said. Tell me some more about your research there.
Yes. So I'm a plant breeding and genetics student, and my minor is in plant pathology. So I'm really interested in that part of disease resistance and looking for new sources that already exist. So we know that we can create artificially modify the DNA of a plant to make it resistant to some pathogens, but we can also try to see in diverse populations if there is already some source there of resistance against pathogens that we care about. And I like the idea of finding those plants and trying to really study what is conferring that resistance, if it's recognizing the pathogen, or you can also make the plant so that the pathogen doesn't really even try to infect the plant. So I like to study those things.
Yeah, that's really neat. I know up at Cornell, there's a few varieties. It's what, the Ursa Major and Ursa Grande. Were you involved in developing those varieties?
Yes, or Ursa Alta and Ursa Grande.
Oh, okay. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Ursa Major
Um,
is a constellation. Sorry.
yeah, that's true. Yes. So I did help at some point with them, but the student that has been working the most with those population is Luis Monserrate. You might have met him during the field days here at Cornell. So he's the one that has been most involved in the selections and scaling up and trying to really license those cultivars.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's been great getting to know the folks at Cornell. You guys are doing so much for the industry, and not just for students in the program, but for people out in the industry. And sort of to that point, you have a webinar series. I guess this is maybe the third year you've done this, but this year you're the person putting it together. Yeah. So why don't you first tell me a bit about like the overall sort of goal of the webinar?
Yes. This is the fourth year that we are organizing the annual hemp webinar series. And the objective of this project is to continue strengthening that research, extension, collaboration throughout the hemp research community, but also expanding our ties to outside of academia. We want to create good quality content, and that will be accessible to anyone that wants to consume or view it. So I mentioned this the fourth time that we organized it. The first time was in 2022, in which George Stack, who's a former PhD student and postdoc in Larry's lab, he was organizing it with help from people from the USDA, Zach Stansel and Tony Veraco. Then in 2023, Luis was the one that organized it, Luis Monserrate. In 2024, Bahia Sal, who is also a PhD candidate in Larry's lab, she was in charge of organizing it. And now it's my turn, and you're all stuck with me.
So it's sort of a rotating thing. And is it that you drew the short straw and then like it's sort of a rite of passage for somebody in Larry's lab to put this together?
Kind of. Yeah, we haven't put it that way, but it sounds like it is. No, so we do apply to our extension and outreach assistantships, and we apply in February of each year, and then we have our stipend covered for the fall and spring semesters. During the fall, we organize the webinar. We select the speakers, the topics that we want to be included. We contact them, ask for bios, for pictures, make the curated list, and then start promoting it. And during the spring semester, we are having the webinars.
Okay.
So the webinars are held bi-weekly on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. EST, and they are 45 minutes long, followed by 15 minutes of a Q&A session.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So that's Wednesdays. It's every other week. It starts January 29th, which is next week, and it goes all the way until May 7th. So that's a really nice long program. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sessions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you want to go through and talk about a little bit about each session?
Yes. So our first speaker, as you mentioned, it's next week, and it's Morgan Tweed, which I'm guessing you met her?
I know Morgan Tweet. Yes, she
Yeah.
is one of the founders of IND Hemp. She's currently, I think, the CEO of IND Hemp, and she's a fantastic person. She just gets a lot of stuff done and has a kind heart, and I'm sure your people are going to learn a lot from her.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm super excited about all the talks. But yes, she is based in Montana, and
in Montana. Yep.
right, and she's a chief executive officer and has helped design, construct, commission, and operate one of the largest hemp processing campuses in the US with their oil seed and fiber facilities. So I'm excited. I'm going to learn so much
Yeah,
during
you
her
are.
talk.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And we also record all of the talks and then we upload them to our School of Integrative Plant Sciences, SIPS YouTube channel.
Hmm.
So if people miss the talks, they can then later go to our
Okay.
channel and
It'll always be
yeah,
available. All right.
yep,
Okay, so that's January 29th with Morgan Tweet from IND Hemp. And then 2 weeks
yes.
after that, February 12th, who do you have there?
We have Nicola here. So if you haven't met her, she is a plant pathology extension specialist in the Department of Plant Pathology at the University of Kentucky.
Okay.
She works with all sorts of diseases, fruit crop and landscape plants and nursery and greenhouses diseases. But this time we are going to hear her talk about hemp diseases. And as we're focusing on grain, this year, we asked her if she could focus on the diseases that affect the inflorescence and the seeds.
Okay, great.
So we also truly appreciate all the work that she has done with the emerging diseases and surveys around the country. So we know which are the pathogens that are affecting hemp here in the US.
All right, so after that, it's hemp products as food ingredients on February 26th.
Yes, and we are having Chadwick White, who is the co-founder and CEO of Nepra Foods.
Nepra
He's
Foods, okay.
Nepra Foods. He's a certified master baker with more than 34 years of experience in commercial product formulation and product implementation. And he said, when I reached out to him, he said that he has tried putting hemp products in many different amazing foods like cheese or meat analogs, sauces, breads, pasta, and others. So I don't know. I'm super excited, and I'm an end user in that case, right? I want to know more about it. I want to know if tomorrow I'm going to go to the supermarket and see a bread made of hemp parts, maybe.
I would love that. Yeah, it's a superfood.
Yeah.
So after Chadwick White from Nepra Foods, 2 weeks after that is Tyler Gordon from the USDA ARS.
Yes. So the fourth speaker on March 12th is Tyler Gordon. He's a research geneticist working on hemp for the USDA ARS. He's here in Geneva. We work closely with him and his team. He did his bachelor's in biology and master's in plant pathology and PhD in plant science. And we are really happy that he joined the group in Geneva. And one of the many projects that they have is evaluating the diverse USDA hemp collection for important secondary metabolites, seed and fiber quality, adaptation to different environmental stressors. And they are collaborating with a lot of people in the US. So they have trials in many different states and then they compare their findings. So we were going to know more about that,
Right, that's
about
going to
the
be a good one.
diversity.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's Tyler Gordon, USDA ARS on March 12th. And then later in March, well, you tell me.
Later, yes, later in March, we are having Ian Graham from the University of York, and he's the big one. We are going to learn more about his work on the novel hyalate acid citrate oil,
Okay.
and more about seed protein and oil content and composition, ratios, and methods to modify them. He is the Weston Chair of Biochemical Genetics at the Center for Novel Agricultural Product in the Department of Biology at the University of York. And he has received many huge or important prizes. He's a fellow of the Royal Society and elected member of the European Molecular Biology Organization, has a ton of publications. So we're really happy that he said yes
Okay,
to
cool.
giving a talk during this series.
Wonderful. All right, and then moving into April, looks like we're talking about hemp seed meal as a feed ingredient for animals.
Yes. So on April 9th, we are going to have Nathalie Trottier. She's a professor in the Animal Science Department here at Cornell University. She teaches in the area of animal nutrition and has also organized some work with hemp seed meal as a feed ingredient in animal diets. Working with pigs, but she also worked with horses, and we want to know more about what's happening with all those animal studies. They should inform also then legal aspects of hemp derived products. So yeah, we're also excited about her talk.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential in that animal feed space, right?
Yeah, truly.
All right, moving on to looks like agronomic practices.
Yes, we're going to hear about best agronomic practices with Bob Pierce from the University of Kentucky. He is a hemp extension specialist, hemp extension professor in the Department of Plant and Soil Sciences at the University of Kentucky. And we want to know more about the trials and things they've been trying with their grain and dual purpose hemp cultivation. They're also having some multi-stage trials over years with different cultivars. So we want to know more about what they find out, how things behave in the different places in the US, the different cultivars.
That's cool. And then looks like the last session is another discussion about hemp as a food ingredient.
Yes. Last but not least, we're having Kendra Mayer from HPS Food and Ingredients. She's a Chief Operating Officer at HPS Food and Ingredients. And we want to know about their goals, how they work with growers, which are the processing facilities that they have, how are they developing treating hemp as an ingredient and developing products, the challenges that they have faced, and other topics related to hemp grain.
Cool. This sounds like just an amazing program that people in the industry are going to get a lot out of. So thank you for putting this together.
So. Yeah. And there's a great deal of information to learn from all of them. So please go ahead and register. You don't have to connect to all of the webinars, and even if people don't make it to one, they're going to be recorded and uploaded.
Okay. And so these are free webinars.
Yes.
Right? You just have to register. Free. Once you register, then you get sent a link, and then you can log in on the day of the webinar. Okay.
Exactly.
I noticed that there is not a lot of sort of chemical cannabinoidal discussion here. It seems to be decidedly not that stuff. Can you talk about that decision?
Yeah. So back in the fall, when I was trying to decide what to focus on for this webinar series, I went back to the talks from previous years, and many talks have covered all the parts with the cannabinoids and extraction of cannabinoids and products. So I just thought the grain hasn't been a major focus previously. So I wanted to cover something that wasn't there already.
Yeah, well, I applaud that decision. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so exciting, the whole world of hemp as a food and as a feed, and full of potential and excitement. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us about the webinar series?
No, I think we're I think we're good.
Okay.
People just need to type webinar series Cornell in the Google, and it will pop up.
Okay, I will also put a link on the show page for this episode at lancasterfarming.com, so people can go there too and click on it. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about your work at Cornell or your experiences here as a PhD candidate in the U.S.?
Well, it's an adjustment. I like it here, especially upstate New York. It's beautiful with all the lakes and the hills and the waterfall, but oh wow, it's cold, freezing cold during the winter. And academic-wise, there's so many opportunities and great researchers here that we can learn from, talk, and collaborate with. I feel like I'm halfway through my project.
Yeah.
So there's many things happening at the same time, and I'm working with on all of them at the same time. But I'm happy that it's working the way it is.
Good. If you could sort of indulge me a minute and tell me a bit about the landscape back home. How does Uruguay sort of compare and contrast to upstate New York?
Ooh, yeah. So one of the things that I miss is the ocean. Yes. So I grew up 3 blocks away from the beach, and where my parents live, they sometimes have the Rio de la Plata. It's a big, huge, wide river that we have there, separates us with Argentina, and it's an estuary there. So sometimes you go to the beach and the water is all brown. You don't see the other side, but it's like a really wide river. And some days the ocean water came in and it's green. So that is awesome. And I do miss going to the beach, the sand, the smell that smells in the air, maybe a dead fish. Yeah. It's we don't have mountains or snow. It gets to freezing during the year, but it doesn't snow. We are, my computer says at 14F right now, but it's getting to 0F. I'm still not doing F. I'm sorry. I'm still in Celsius. I do miles, yes, but
okay.
the Fahrenheit, no.
Yeah. I would feel the same way, I think, if I was in a place and forced to think in a new system. So yeah, I get it. I respect that. So, all right. Well, have you been to, this is probably way off topic, but have you been to the beaches of New England?
We went to New York and we went to the Long Island beach, which it was February, so it was cool. There wasn't many people around, so I really liked it. Oh, I really liked it. I almost cried when I was there just because of that feeling, and it's part of me. And the lakes are beautiful, but it's not the same.
They're not big enough. Yeah.
No, you see the other side. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, Lou, it's great to meet you and to talk to you. And I hope that someday you get to go back to Uruguay and see your Atlantic Ocean there.
Yes. I'm planning to visit.
Yeah, good. And I will probably see you online on some of these calls. So thank you for putting this together. And I look forward to joining and learning as much as I can from you and your host of speakers. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
All right. There you go. Lucia Vignale from Cornell University. And as I mentioned, I will have a link to the webinar series on the show page for this episode, but you could also just Google Cornell Hemp webinar and you'll find it. So again, it's every other Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern from January 29th until May 7th. Lots of great speakers, so go register for it. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this first episode of our new 2025 season. Thank you for listening. If you have show ideas or questions or comments or concerns or anything, you can always reach out to me by email. Send it to podcast@lancasterfarming.com. My name is Eric Herlock. I am the senior digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Check us out online at lancasterfarming.com. Get a subscription to our print edition. Sign up for our newsletters. Do you know that we have a weekly hemp newsletter? Yeah, you can sign up for it at lancasterfarming.com. All right, so that's enough for me today. Until next time, I'll see you in the newspaper. This episode of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2025 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of this Time and Communications family. Today's show was written, recorded, edited, and produced by Eric Herlock. The music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tinbird Shadow.
Industrial hemp, 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 industrial hemp.